here's an extra mic.
Okay. Hey there, how's everybody doing? Good? Yeah, there's excitement. Okay, so I'm Lisa Donohue, and I run Publicis Spine, which is a division of Publicis Group. It was formed about 2 years ago, and it's the group's approach to unify data and technology in service to our clients. And so basically it's designed to advance both marketing and business transformation for our clients' business. So really thinking about data as a business driver rather than just necessarily a cost management mechanism.
Hi, I'm David Bush. I'm the Director of Marketing Analytics and Data Science at IBM. I've been in this role for a little over 2 years now, and it's been a really exciting 2 years. About 2.5 years ago, our CMO, who came to IBM, Michelle Peluso, came in and really led a transformation through her leadership towards data-driven marketing and data-driven transformation, not just of marketing, but now it's spreading across the entire company. It's been really incredible to have that leadership because it's shifted the way that we work with data and use analytics from being, I would say, a support capability where we enable the business with tools. It's shifted it from that towards a centralized team that drives analytics and drives outcomes from a business perspective very strategically. So that shift from support to strategic. And it couldn't happen without the foundation that was laid by Ari Schenken, my boss, and how he had that vision to set up essentially the architecture, the infrastructure, the data systems, and even the way of approaching the business in the years leading up to it. And then when Michelle got there, everything was just set right, and it drove a lot of change in the business. So it's been really good to be a part of that.
Hi everyone, I'm Karen Feldman, also with IBM. For the last 3 years, I've been part of our market development and insights organization. We have a mission of delivering market competitive client research to the business, but we actually set our organization up in a very unique way. We also have a team of strategy consultants who work with the research, partner very closely across our entire organization to deliver insights about that research. We feel very strongly that data and analytics without the business context, without the insights, and without that strong partnership across the business doesn't drive the transformation that we need. David and I work very closely together. What's been very exciting for me as well is with the rise of new forms of data, new technologies, the platform that David and team have delivered so that we can make the data accessible across the business, and really the ability to integrate that data, in particular with user-centric data, which Michelle really has driven as an organization to lean in to user-centric data as a company. And really, it's been the rallying force across our business to bring together the different functions and different parts of the organization.
Great, thank you. I like to think of data-driven transformation as it's really a continuous journey. It's not a destination, and would love to, I think the audience would love to hear a little bit about how do you get started? And maybe you all can talk about, Lisa, you can talk about what your experience is in terms of the level of maturity of different organizations you work with, and how do they get started?
Sure, absolutely. As we've already heard so far, there's really no lack of data that exists out there for anybody, and there's new forms of data all the time. The thing is to really understand what data matters, what data streams are the right ones to bring together based on what your objectives are. So at the end of the day, companies need to really establish a vision for how they want to unlock the value of data to drive their business, and really need to be able to lay out a clear vision. And then within that, what we've found is you really have to understand the maturity level that you're at now versus the maturity level you need to grow to. And it's very much a journey, as you've said. There's the maturity within organizations, and there's also market level maturity, right? So there's a big difference between the more data mature and dynamic markets versus the emerging markets. And if you basically try to boil the ocean or apply, one application of data across the board, you'll get stymied by the lack of maturity in making progress. When progress can be made in any market at any level if you just have the right approach to it. So overarching vision for how you want data to drive the business, and then a clear understanding of the maturity of the organization as well as the market level maturity. And then the last thing that I would say is really acknowledging that this whole world is about change management. You cannot set a vision for driving data within the organization and expect the organization to behave the same way. There's a whole new level of thinking. How are you going to think about the business? How are you going to test hypotheses? How are you going to then action the results of that? And if there's not the change management happening at the same time, then honestly, all the efforts will fail because people don't know how to think and work differently.
Great. And Karen and David, you mentioned that you had new leadership come in. That was part of the impetus. Can you talk a little bit more about what was the real driving force behind the change?
Sure, I can start. So if you think about the digital transformation journey we're all on as organizations, B2B technology is on that same transformation. We are one of the leading, largest providers of cloud, data, AI, all the capabilities we all need to transform. It requires a major shift, if you think about it, in the business model. And so, if you look at the technology market, most of the growth really is in as a service. It's the shift to a subscription-based model, very different way of engaging and interacting with your clients. If you think about legacy history, we partner very closely with our largest clients. We continue to do that. But driving an as-a-service business model requires reaching users in new ways, engaging in new ways, making sure our portfolio is discoverable, really thinking about a partnership throughout the journey, really winning the hearts and minds of every user so that they are delighted with the products we're delivering, they're delighted with the experience that we're delivering to them. That requires a very different shift in terms of how we organizationally work together, much closer partnership between marketing, sales, product development than we've ever needed before. That is very much why we as an organization have chosen to lean in to user centricity. One really good example is NPS. So that is something that 2.5 years ago we made a decision as a company to really establish a world-class NPS program. We now have 600,000 responses across 300 products, 21 customer touch points. It's really been a transformation that we've had to drive in terms of building that program and really thinking about how do you drive the advocacy throughout. How do you really take the pieces of feedback, those wonderful, valuable pieces of feedback that we're getting from our customers, our users about the experience we're delivering, and use that to really inform the decisions that we make strategically across the business, even down to the product roadmap level.
Yeah, and you said it perfectly. Clients, I mean, when we talk about the impetus for this change, it really is our clients. IBM, as you know, is a B2B company. We have very complex sets of offerings across different business units. But of course, our clients don't experience our silos of offerings, or they shouldn't experience those silos of offerings as silos. We want them to be able to find their way through what their needs are from the perspective of their jobs that they need to get done, and then be able to discover, as you said, discover and explore our offerings. So data has been our means through our marketing capabilities. It's been our means to actually enable that journey. It's the way that we allow clients to essentially find their way across different offerings because it helps us to know what to show them next. So we use analytics and data science capabilities to essentially get an idea of where a customer is in their process of exploring our offerings. And then as they do that, they essentially can get to the point where we can see they're interested in a particular offering and then put them in touch with somebody who can actually help them to that next step. And that's become a very important part of how we do this. So in a nutshell, it's for our clients, that's the impetus, but then overcoming our own internal complexity so that our clients don't have to feel that pain.
Great. And one of the things that we've talked about many times here is data science, the need for data scientists in the industry. How important is talent, and what skills, in addition to data science, do you need to really make this change, this transformation?
Yeah, that's excellent. We had a good discussion
We
about
did.
this as we were preparing. When I actually took on the role of overseeing the spine, and I'm not a vertical specialist in this area, for full transparency, you know, my heritage was really on the agency side, coming up full service in media, but I developed a passion for the data. And when I first put this in place, one of the things that I said to our management is, you know, if you think we're going to build a platform and some small group of vertical specialists are going to change the world, it's not going to happen. Publicis Group has about 80,000 people. And I said, if 80,000 people don't understand this world and don't understand how it's going to change, then we won't be successful. So we sort of ended up coining this phrase that we don't need 80,000 data experts, but we do need 80,000 people that are data literate, right?
I love that term.
And so, yeah, data literacy. And so we've been on a journey towards that data literacy. And so the way we think about it is there are crafts that we need, and we think very much about data sciences and their crafts that are within that, and crafts very much because this is a creative, this vertical expertise is very creative, and it is a craft, and everybody's passionate about the algorithms that they write or everything they develop. So there's a broad range of crafts that are needed, so whether it is pure data scientists, if you will, and I know actually a lot of data scientists hate that terminology, but you also need data engineers, right? And you need very vertical expertise in machine learning. You also need data strategists, right? To really think about the strategies that need to be developed. And when you think about marketing transformation, that's media and creative. It is the full set of marketing elements that need to be applied within that. And so, you know, at the end of the day, we have 7 crafts that we are looking to hire expertise around the world. But then again, as I said, we're also looking to make the other, you know, or the rest of the 80,000 people data literate. Back to my change management, how do they need to think differently? What type of thinkers do we need? You know, I usually frame that a lot as very lateral or horizontal thinkers is what you need now. People that can take and assimilate a lot of information, distill it very simply into insights, and then drive strategy. And that's a big part of what we need now to be supported, right, by the vertical expertise in the crafts.
Yeah, and just building on that exact same theme,
Go for it.
couldn't agree more. I mean, certainly data science is important to us. We have a team, we invest in that team, and their skill set is essential to develop scalable capabilities. But completely agree about this notion of data literacy across the organization, and even within our key analytics team, it's that marrying of creativity and the scientific aspects of how you work with the data and make sure you're not getting false positives or missing the true positives. So that the way we establish that in our organization is we bring those capabilities together in the same team. In fact, our team under Ari has grown to include even the actual performance marketing. So what we do is we start with the business question. That's key, right? So rather than build models around a very general business question, we usually start with a very focused business question and then want to generate insights that give us actions to drive results towards that business question or that business problem within a matter of weeks. Like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we get a problem and we have a team of people starting to generate insights that support that. Then, in an agile way, you continue to iterate on those data-driven findings, driving action, and then in parallel, you start to build the data science capabilities that scale that out and where you can press a button and start to generate those insights on a regular basis. So it's that shift from starting with business, iterating towards better and better insights. As you drive those actions in the business, you're learning through that process, and then the data science is being developed as a set of capabilities that turn that into a button-pressing, scalable, automated system.
The other thing that I would say is when you start to work more closely together and collaborate across an organization, you find there are pockets of talent in a lot of different places. And so very often you don't have to look outside the company in order to drive the scale that you need. And that's something that we have found, that as you start to rally around a common mission, common question, common objective of driving superior offerings into the market that delight our users each and every day, we can start to identify those pockets of talent that might sit in a sales organization or might sit in marketing or might sit in product development, and we can come together. The other area that we found is, as we have been advancing our data, our analytics, our tools, what we're delivering, we've been able to shift many of our resources away from reporting. Frees up a lot of time to start thinking about how do I deliver insights. That requires training. It requires really working with the teams to say, what are the next set of questions that you really should be asking and helping to answer for the business. Not everybody can make that journey, but what we have found is there's a lot of excitement, right, from resources in order, for them to be able to partner more closely and really advise the business.
That's great. So great kind of success factors. So getting that question right, having that blend of skills. What about some challenges? What barriers have you come across? How have you overcome them? How have you helped clients overcome those challenges?
Yeah, so for me, I think one of the biggest challenges is sometimes the data and the insights are more advanced than our ability to act on those as an organization. And I don't just mean, the fact that we sit in silos, but we're stretched, for time. And so I really think it's been about leveraging the data to understand what's the biggest challenge, what's the area that we should focus on first that we really think is going to move the needle and drive the biggest impact and change. And then going deep into that area, and starting to go really advanced with the data science, doing the experimentation, so that we can drive change. So great example is, again, going back to NPS, we know across the touch points where we have some of the larger pain points. We were able to drill in, kind of marry user feedback with some of the business results and recognize that onboarding was an area that we, kind of across the portfolio needed to improve. So we were able to partner very closely with offering management, with our channel leads, really understand what is it that's driving the pain point around onboarding, how do we improve that experience, how can we drive change there?
And you said something that was really critical about the fact that we're pulling talent from different parts of the business. It relates to a challenge of, not everybody's ready to make that journey. What we've found is bringing the data science and analytics talent across the company more and more into a centralized system has helped a lot, because it enables that consistency of understanding of the data, the consistency of the talent, and the approach that's actually working to be pushed further into the organization. That's been really important. There's another side to it as well. The data itself and the language you use to drive impact is really important, and that's probably goes without saying. But for example, when we develop capabilities for the business to use, one of the first things we have to take into account is that the data and the experience of working with the data is, first of all, usable. We can't have it be confusing. So there's this extent to which you have to take the data insights and make them visualizable, if that's a word. And then having made them visual and easy to interact with, there's that user centricity that goes into the actual developing of the capabilities for our own teams to use. And then related to that, you have to make sure, going back to this idea of the data as being a language for results, the data actually have to be useful. So you actually have to be able to use the data where you act on them and then you see change. And so we make that whole process evident in the management system. Last thing I'll say on this point around challenges is, in order to make the data truly indicative of how to drive change in the business, there are important questions that we're all familiar with that you have to ask around, for example, around attribution. So understanding how you relate your different levers across your business from a marketing or sales point of view to business results means that the attribution systems have to tie right into revenue results. So we've in IBM have gone through a bit of a journey where we've had to shift from focusing only on above the line capabilities from an attribution point of view, especially because we're B2B, to understanding account behavior and individuals across an account behaving together in a way that's affecting our below the line, essentially driving revenue outcomes and seeing how that works. So that was a journey that we had to undertake ourselves and build our own capabilities to that end.
That's great. Lisa?
Sure, and obviously some common themes here. But one which I mentioned, one of the challenges is that this is change management. And for us being a services organization, it's change management for us and on our client side. And we try very hard to get our client partners to understand if you are going to operate the same way, you are not going to see the results that you would like to see. And so we try to guide them in the same type of change management. What is the type of talent that they need to have in the organization? How do they need to structure things? So change management is a big piece of it. I'll say a second thing really is, I'll call it data infrastructure and taxonomy. A lot of the client partners that we work with are looking for us to apply this around the world globally. And it takes months, and I see some of my friends out there chuckling. It can take months and months to try to get the taxonomy right. And honestly, the client partners are like, why haven't you set this up in 2 weeks, right? And if you don't start with the infrastructure and the base, then all you have is dirty data on top of it, and then you're making decisions on dirty data, which is not helpful. And I think another thing I would say is a lot in the area of data, people either get caught up in numbers and size, right? So if you're doing identity resolution, everyone's going to talk about the hundreds of millions of IDs that they have, but they won't signify what kind of IDs that those are. And they'll just focus on the size of the numbers rather than what is the quality of the data. So we're trying very hard to get our own people and our clients to understand quality of data is going to matter more than the size of it, as well as instead of asking what is the unique data source that you're going to bring, as if there's some mystical, magical, single unique data source, versus what are your business challenges, and let's find the right data sources to stitch together that will solve that business challenge. And you know what? If we find a data source that's not contributing anymore, then let's factor it out and let's contribute another data source in there. But there's a lot of rigor that needs to be done there.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that flexibility is needed in our constantly changing world. Just in the few minutes we have left, would love to hear you talk about, it's such an investment to go through this data-driven transformation. How do you measure success? How do you demonstrate that to leadership, to your clients, your customers?
Ultimately, it's about business results, but what we have been really trying to do over the last few years is marry the business results to some of these more leading indicators around user insights. So, NPS, we know it correlates to market share, right? Mm-hmm. When we have better NPS, we have better market share. We know it correlates to improved win rates, with clients. We know lifetime value improves, but it's really trying to ensure that we take a handful of the right metrics and marry those to the business results. And then we of course do look at some of these more transformational metrics to make sure we're driving the adoption and the usage across the company around some of the platforms, tools, technologies that we're delivering.
You mentioned that when we were on the phone, just in terms of the adoption and usage across the organization. It says you really need to move kind of steer the whole ship in a different direction.
Exactly, and I think it goes back to Lisa's comment on data literacy.
Yeah.
We have platforms, we're democratizing the data because you can't rely on one small, centralized team to deliver all the insights. We have to empower the organization.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah, and just building, I would say, like anything, there's hard and there's soft metrics, right? So for us, given our vision is really to grow our clients' business through transformative applications of data, the starting point is to say, okay, what was the business objective and how are we contributing to that sales growth? And that's kind of the highest plane, and within there, then you can get into some other sub-metrics to that. But I think there's also a softer metrics that gets to the cultural side, right? Because we're talking again about change management, and we're talking about instilling a different culture and a way of thinking about managing the business. You know, and there's components of that about predictability, predictiveness, the ability to do that. Agility, which was mentioned earlier, is a big piece of all of this. So, you know, do you have a more agile organization? Does the client have a more agile organization? Are we learning and responding faster than we were previously, right, in managing the client's business? So I think there's a combination of some hard and soft things, metrics, but also a culture and how that's changing.
And on this notion of measurement performance and the ways that we do that, one thing I wanted to point out is first of all, it's got to be simple. So we work backwards from revenue, and there are a few key measures across, for example, the marketing journey that absolutely are essential, that the whole business understands that that's the key ingredients to success. And then, and very briefly, I'll just say, you have to set up a management system where those KPIs are evident to everybody, all the way from the top of the organization, all the way down through it, so that you can set up that internally competitive environment where people are being measured against those same parts across the journey.
And drive the accountability across the entire organization. Yeah,
Exactly.
Great. Well, Lisa, David, Karen, thank you so much for joining us on this today. It was a great discussion, and I'm sure if folks have questions, they can find you throughout the sessions. Thank you.
Thank you.